Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Asian Hustle Network podcast. Today, we have a very special guest with us. His name is Eric Feng. Eric went from being an unknown local trainer in Singapore to a celebrated global speaker, all thanks to social media. Prior to COVID 19, Eric traveled the world. His record was 37 countries in a year to teach salespeople and entrepreneurs how to use social media to attract paying customers without running ads. He has a presence across 8 social media platforms and recently got his verified blue tick on Facebook and TikTok. Eric, welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Asian Hustle Network podcast. We have
Woo!
Eric on the show today. Eric, let's hop into the first
Yo,
question. What was your childhood like and how did you become the person you are today?
now I have a photo of myself right now in front of me just to kind of put myself back into the childhood days, right? I think that Eric in his early days was very shy, very scrawny, and also extremely self-conscious. I still remember my best friend. We've been friends for like 30 years. She once said to me that, hey, I noticed something. Even if you're not in the classroom, we might not notice that you're not in the classroom. And she did not say it in a very mean way. She just said it in a factual discovery that, oh my God, when you're not around, we didn't even realize that. And also that was kind of who I am during my school days. And it was, of course, not fun because you don't get to date the people that you like. You don't get invited to class like parties. You don't get invited by your friends to their house to play games. So I was quite a loner during the school days.
And honestly, that you're anything but a, I don't know, quote unquote loner now because you're so social. I see you over social media. You're so awesome, right? You definitely like put your personality out there a lot. And just kind of interesting hearing that, you were once called Mr. Invisible, right? And I want to hear about the transformation about you becoming more visible, not only to the world, but to yourself, right?
Got it. Well, I wish there was like a magic pill you can eat, right? And all of a sudden, I just become a lot more confident. But it really took a long process because whatever I just shared with you was my secondary school days, right? So that was 13 to 16. And the only way I can protect my self-worth was really studying. Like, that was the only thing. There was no social media back then. So I told myself that, you know what? Okay, fine. I don't have a lot of friends. I'm invisible. And to the extent, right, Brian, just to share how bad it was, at 13 years old, we have this program called the ERP, which is Enrichment Reading Program or English Reading Program, where we have to put up a play, based on a book. And my class picked Hamlet, which is by Shakespeare, right? And Hamlet's the main character. Now, I secretly wanted to be Hamlet, of course. Everybody secretly wants to be the main hero, right? But obviously, they don't. Of course, I wasn't chosen. I dare not put up my hands because I don't want to get laughed at. So they picked the most popular guy, but the script is tough, right? It's very hard to memorize a Shakespeare play. So the guy gave up 1 month later. We picked the second most popular guy, the third most popular guy, all gave up. And within the last week of the play, everyone was desperate. And then they say, you know what? Who wants to do it? And then I just like, oh, maybe I can do it. And eventually, I did my best. I thought that was a great way to build my self worth. I actually won the Best Actor award, but I got zero appreciation from a single one of my classmates. Zero. So that was my attempt, right? Trying to maybe be good at acting. That failed. So I started doing studying. I studied really hard, and I topped the class almost every year. That was my way of protecting myself. I said that, you know what? So since I can't have friends, then I'll just be the most hardworking, be the most studious person in the classroom. And I did do well in school, but that didn't really get me friends. But that was how I survived my secondary school days. That was how I tell myself, like, you know what? It's okay. You study hard, you get a good job. One day your friends will regret not being your friend. It's so lame to think about it right now. But that was exactly how I comfort myself, studying, just being the best student ever.
Okay, that's a really interesting story. I don't know if you can really call them friends, right? Because I think any true friends really acknowledge you, and I'm glad that you were able to move on from that experience and at least show to yourself that if you work hard enough or prove to yourself that you can become a brand new person. And I think that's really valuable because I think a lot of us try to reevaluate ourselves and be like, okay, like I'm just the way I am, I can't change. But the fact that you reevaluate yourself, like, I can change, and honestly, I feel like you're one of those guys out there that continuously grow, right? And I feel like you're able to take your past experiences and sort of just roll into new things and become more of the person you are today. For you guys that don't know, check out Eric's Instagram. We'll
Thank
have that on the
you.
show notes, but like you'll see what I mean by Eric is the way he is, and I think it's awesome, right? And
But it really took time, because like you think about it, I was hiding behind the mask of being a good student, right? And actually it bites me a later part of the year. I mean, my career. So I mean, of course, the studying thing made me really good at it, and that's why I'm in education because I love studying, I love learning, so I naturally love teaching as well. So that's why I became a corporate speaker. But I remember in my very first year, it was where my demons just came back because I was struggling a lot, right? And all of a sudden, I realized that because in the education business previously, there was no TikTok, so everyone has this notion that you gotta have white hair or no hair, in order to be a speaker. And I have to say, it doesn't really help that back then, speaking is a very American thing. So a lot of corporate companies here in Asia, they only hire American speakers. They will never hire Asian. If they hire us as Asian, usually we are just a trainer. We're just doing a very short bit. So there was a lot against me, and I was young. I was inexperienced. In fact, during a lot of meetings, I'll get a lot of eye rolling because they're like, "Wait, you are a speaker? Like, how old are you?" And one lady, she even said to me in Mandarin, she said, 我吃的盐都比你吃的米多, right? What it means is the amount of salt that she eats is more than the rice I eat, implying that I'm super young. And in my head, I was thinking, if you eat so much salt, you're going to die of kidney failure. But that was exactly how it is. A lot of rejections, and then suddenly I got brought back to my school days. I was like, oh my god, it's history all over again. And I was very close to quitting. And I have to say that my turning point was having a mentor. And I really think that having mentors is underrated. Like, we really can't do things on our own, and that there are people out there who share the same values with us, who have been through the same, have to share the same demons that could help you. So I had this mentor. He was the one that introduced me to the world of social media. He said that people don't appreciate you until you become a somebody. Like, you need to have a following, you need to have a certain popularity and authority, and then people come to you. It's an attraction game. So I did, right? I took his advice. I went on social media, but after a few months, I still did not get the results I want. Came back to him and he said, you know what? I think, Eric, I know what's the problem. He's wise. This year, he's already 70 plus years old. I said, what's the problem? And I was very afraid that he would say I'm the problem, because then if I'm the problem, then he can't help me, then no one can help me, right? He said that I think the problem is because people treat you like a nobody because you saw yourself as a nobody in the first place. And that was a turning point for me because, we always talk about personal branding, right? We need to put ourselves out there and we want the world to love us. But you know what? The world is simply a reflection of how you treat yourself. So if you see yourself as a nobody, then guess what? People are going to start treating you like a nobody. It manifests. That was the turning point. And it happened only in my third year of my career. So I wish he came earlier. I would have been the most popular kid in class. But he came, much later, and that was why my major breakthrough came when I started working on my self-image. Like, when I started being my own biggest fan, when I started celebrating myself, that was where my fan base came. And that was so important. Nothing to do with social media. It's about your self-worth, how you see yourself.
Yeah, I do agree with that statement. Like, having mentors is very, very important to be able to tell you straight up, like, what needs to be improved, right? And obviously there's a lot of nuances too, where you have to really trust your mentor's advice and understand that he or she has the best intention for you, right? So I do
true.
appreciate that, and you're absolutely right. I think with the social media stuff, contrary to belief, it's like it really starts from within. Like, how you view yourself is how you reflect into the world, and I feel like if you don't have things figured out, like, you reflect a lot of insecurities, you reflect a lot of anger, things you really need to work on, right? So, I mean, I do feel like social media is a powerful tool, but more importantly, like, self-growth, personal growth is absolutely very, very important.
100% agree with you.
And on that topic of self-growth, looking through your Instagram and your, LinkedIn and everything, your self-growth has led you to develop superpowers, right? And I want to talk about those 4 superpowers that you have and particularly talk about them more in detail. So
Got it.
what are your superpowers? Let's name them
Well, I wouldn't
officially.
say they are my superpowers, but
No,
they
you're a
are the
superpower.
superpowers I discovered, that social media can give you. So number one, the first superpower of social media is that it helps you build relationships with people that matters at scale. And then number two, social media allows you to build your personal brand so that you can be top of mind. And number three, social media helps you find quality customers. And number four, social media allow you to attract allies and partners, people like yourself that share the same values with you to do things together, to collaborate. And I think that's the amazing part about being on social media.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know you use your social media powers to grow your personal business as well. And I want to hear the transition throughout your entire career. What was your first job like? What was your second job like? Your third? And how
Got
did
it.
each one of these experiences lead you up to becoming the person you are today? Because I would imagine that they're sort of radically different from each other, right? But the thing is, like, I feel like with each career choice and each job you go through, you always take the one piece of experience and roll it over to the next one until you become your own entrepreneur. And now the only experience and knowledge you have is dependent on the experience and knowledge you had before. So I want to hear all
So
about your
true.
career.
Well, I remember I told you, like, my self-identity was just being a good student, right? And studying really hard. That was how I protect myself. And as a result of that, I had a good scholarship. So I was working for a government organization, and it was a tech company, right? It was an IT scholarship. But that was when I realized that I was so inadequate. I did not know how to program. I was struggling at work. I was not motivated at all. Well, in retrospect, I can now say this, that I remember I took a lot of MC, medical leave. I was really not working. I was disengaged, absolutely disengaged. And I tell you why this is an important experience, because sometimes you need to know what you don't like. Because people tell me that I don't know what I want, but it's okay. You don't have to start with what you want. You can start with what you don't want. And I do not want a desk job. I do not want to work for somebody. I have my own direction. I have my own thing. So it was so clear, after like 3 years of that. And I was so fortunate that in my last year, they sent me to Sri Lanka because back then the Tamil Tigers were still there. No one wanted to go to Sri Lanka, and I'm the fresh grad, so I had to go. But it was one of the best times of my life. You know why? Because I was all alone there, being a liaison person, so I have a lot of free time. The Sri Lankans there are very family oriented. So after work, they don't go out to party and drinks, they go back home, which means I have no friends again. So I spend all my time working on one skill, and that's public speaking. And the reason why I want to work on public speaking was because another mentor of mine shared with me that in the corporate world, it's not about how smart you are. It's about, how well you communicate. If you communicate well, people are going to perceive you as capable. The keyword here is perceive. You may not be capable, but people think you are. So I figured, oh, wow, that'll be a great skill for promotion. So I spent a year, really learning about public speaking, working on my public speaking skills, even blogging about it. But what I didn't realize was that blog eventually became a book. And that book eventually got me on TV and led me into the education industry, where I started writing speeches for some of the C-suite and business leaders. So that was how I switched so fast, 360 degrees into the corporate training world. And at this point, I just want to tell every one of you that sometimes you're not happy with whatever that you go through. But I always think that it is everything that you experience is for your good. It's never to hurt you, but it's to strengthen you, and it's to make you better. Because if I did not go through that horrible work experience, I would not have known what I do not want. If I had not gone for that Sri Lanka thing, which I was so scared about because I was so scared of being lonely, I would not have been so focused on working on a skill. And if not for that skill, I would not have a career today. So everything works for our good. We just got to trust the process.
Yeah, everything you said is extremely relatable to myself, at least, right? And I had the same feeling too. When I got out of college, I'm like, wow, I really suck at everything. And it really takes time and awareness to figure out what you like and don't like. Because I think a lot of us, when we enter the workforce, like it's our first job ever. Like our experience are way different from what our parents experienced, right? And honestly, with our generation, it's hard to imagine anything, or it's hard to be prepared for your first corporate job, because your parents,
Yes.
when they see you like dress up nicely and dress shirt and suit and tie, and they're like extremely happy for you already.
Yeah.
But that's like most parents' dreams, where it just ends there. Like they don't keep dreaming when you actually work your job, you know, and then they teach you like the nuances of like what a work environment is like. So I absolutely agree with that statement, where it's like, all of us are human at the end of the day, right? We go through
Yep.
these various emotions. And when we look at you, Eric, we look at our other people as well. And it's like, wow, you definitely have it all together. Like, how can I be like you? I must be so inadequate. But here you are sharing your story that, it takes a lot of determination and awareness to realize that these are things you need to work on, right? And I feel like society puts a huge emphasis on things you suck at and kind of put you down really, really hard. Oh, you're really bad at that. You shouldn't do that
Yep.
anymore. But I feel like through consistency, practice, and determination, like you can be really good at anything you set your mind to. Right. And I think a lot of
So
people forget
true.
that. A
Yeah.
lot of people forget that. A lot of people forget that, no one is an expert at the very beginning. Right. Like we all suck at it at the very beginning. It just takes time to improve.
You know how I look at life? I'm a gamer, right? Are you a gamer? Do you play games? I guess everybody play games these days.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Now, this is how I look at life, right? Life is a computer game. And when you see bad guys, you know you're on the right direction. Right? Nobody complains in a computer game when they die. Nobody, people are just, oh, I died. Okay, I'm gonna learn how to jump faster. Oh, I'm gonna get a big boss. Oh my god, he's big and terrible, but it's okay if I win it. I see the pattern. I see roughly how he attacks me. Right? There's a certain pattern. I win. The bigger the boss, the bigger the reward. I think we need to see life like that. That when we meet bad guys, it's not a bad thing. It's supposed to be that thing because it's supposed to make us stronger. Because I always believe that life have only one single purpose, and it's to help you be the best version of yourself. Everything are just vehicles for your personal evolution, your relationships, your career, your anything. So if you see it with that lens, then you're not going to feel miserable when bad things happen to you. You're either going to learn or you're going to celebrate.
Yeah, I like that. I like that breakdown because it all falls into the growth mindset, right?
Yes.
Continuous growth mindset, where it's like you view every challenge as an opportunity to become a better person, a better version of yourself. Because at the end of the
Yes.
day, it's you versus you, not you versus the world, not you versus other people. It's so easy to compare ourselves, but in reality, it's like when you see a challenge and you mentally accept that this is an opportunity for you to level up, the journey is the best way to see it.
And to double that, so number one, I love it that you frame it as growth mindset. I think self-awareness, you alluded to that, was very important as well, because we should not be barking up the wrong tree. I feel that at very early on in the game, we need to understand our strengths. There's so many assessments out there to help you understand what you're good at, what you're not good at. And I think that we should be spending our effort and energy and time working on the areas that we're really, really good at, because those are the areas that we later will use to serve the world, to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
And then that's where you get your fulfillment.
Absolutely agree with that statement. So let's continue off that statement, right?
Yeah.
And focus back on yourself. So I noticed through your LinkedIn profile that, I really like the tagline, digital transformation strategist. I help
Yes.
financial advisors succeed in a digital 3.0 world. And let's frame it in the context of what is the 3.0 world? Because that doesn't relate to everything that we see on social media right now. So what is the 3.0 world?
Well, I mean, I use the word 3.0 world, to represent the metaverse, right? And if you think about it, right, everything was, disconnected, and then everything back to Web 2.0, everything was connected. And then now we're going to disconnect again, right? This time we're giving a lot of autonomy back to us, content creators and individuals, right? So that's the world that I foresee is going to happen, the metaverse.
So
right?
what is a
And
metaverse? What for our
Yeah.
listeners?
So a lot of people think that metaverse is like a virtual world, and I do agree that if you watch Ready Player One, you would think that metaverse is a virtual world. But I think that metaverse is not just a virtual world; it's actually a moment in time. I read it on Twitter that it's a moment in time where our digital assets become more important than our physical assets. You think about it today, nobody cares about Rolex. People care about Bored Apes or the NFTs, right? People don't care about real photos. They just care about filters, right? I don't care about my resumes. I care about my social media profiles, Right? I get upset when my content don't go viral. People don't care about that in the past. So everything digital has a lot more value these days. We're spending a lot more time on a mobile phone. We're spending more time on e-commerce, buying things, connecting with people on live stream, playing games on Twitch. This is the world, that digital world. And unfortunately, the target market I'm working with are still very much in love with the olden world, the physical world. And so I'm helping them, I see myself like Moses, bringing them to that new world. And that's why I wrote what I wrote.
Yeah, that's a really good perspective, right? And as for a lot of people, the metaverse is still very confusing, right? Because
Yes.
I think the first question we have to ask ourselves: how do you even get into the metaverse, right? Because I can't even find a door. It's easy to talk about it. We see a lot of NFT stuff nowadays, and there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I
So
want to take
much.
the opportunity to really demystify some of the misinformation out there and talk about the metaverse, particular, right? In the future implication that it might have on everything. You started alluded to it and saying that everything we do touches upon, in the digital world. That's correct. So give us like a prime, like walk us through like a detailed prime example of like a metaverse feeling of like how'd you enter, how did you create things? Like, can you be anything in the metaverse? Because what I'm seeing in my mind right now is like a simulation. Whereas I could walk into a metaverse as a teddy bear. Right? I just wanted to have you explain to your audience, like what, like how do you get in? What's the metaverse?
Well, I
Exactly.
have an easier time than you because I'm dealing with financial advisors. In their world, the metaverse at this point of time is social media. Can you imagine that? For them, they are still not used to being active on social media. You must understand this is an industry that was so used to face-to-face meetings. They're very used to doing road shows and cold calls. To them, the metaverse is, I think of it, metaverse like a spectrum, and that the social media is part of that metaverse. In future, it's going to evolve. I think about it in future. I probably will need I think what they call the Oculus lens, right? We're going to wear that, and I'm going to immediately step into your world where I'll get to know you by your social media profiles, your NFTs, which is basically your items that you acquire. You think about it. People today associate themselves with the photos that they've taken, right? In future, people are going to associate themselves with the items they collect. It's just that those items will be digital, which means that if I step into your website, the website in future is not just me seeing your website. I'm actually in your website, interacting with you. And that website could potentially be like, for me, I love the forest. So I will invite you to my world, and it's going to be a forest. You're going to be hearing birds chirping, you're going to be hearing sounds, and you're going to see all my corgis because that's what I love. And probably they're all NFTs. So I would just say that anything that you see that is the physical, just think of it as in future, there's the digital version of that. And as you said this, right, just a few minutes ago, I was posting a video of a Korean singer who passed away in 2013, right? And recently they did a concert, and they actually beamed him back on hologram. And you can't tell the difference that he was actually a hologram. And the mom and the wife was there, and they cried because you can't tell the difference between real and unreal.
Yeah.
So I would say that the metaverse is still evolving. Like how back then we don't understand the social media world. Right now we do after so many years.
Yeah.
I think that metaverse is going to always be in unfolding. But if you are in business, you don't have to worry too much about that because your environment might change. But one thing don't change is customers are still the boss. They are the real bosses. They can take the business away from you. They can fire your CEO by taking the business away from you. So my compass, my true north is not metaverse. My true north is not the trends out there, because trends are like the climate. It changes, right? What I focus on is my true north, which is my customer. Who are the customers? What problems they have? I will figure out the best way to solve the problems. If as an entrepreneur, we focus on our customers and focusing on how their problems evolve, the solutions will evolve accordingly. We don't have to ride on trends just so that, because we are FOMO or because we need to. We don't have to. Your true north is your customer. You take care of your customers take care of you in all times. I don't care what 3.0, 4.0, 5.0. As long as the customers are there, they'll take care of you. I think that's more important.
That's correct. That's correct. I think a lot of us forget that in entrepreneurship too, and it's a good segue to talk about that too. It's like you learn a lot by learning from your audience, your community, your customer, because like you're as an entrepreneur, like your job is to solve those problems, right? To make life a lot
Exactly.
easier for a lot of people. So in your field especially, how do you survey these type of advice and how do you like get to know the audience you're working with?
Got it. Well, that's where social media comes in, right? Because like, so I'll give you an example. Like, I work with financial advisors and insurance agents all around the world. There are a few hashtags on Instagram where you will find all of them. So within the hashtags that I use, I will be able to connect with hundreds of them, in a single week. And all I need to do is just ask them one question, like, what's the biggest challenge that you're facing right now that is stopping you from achieving your goal? And if you listen to 100 people, eventually you'll see a pattern. And then you go solve that. Case in point, when I first started, remember I told you I wrote a book on public speaking? I started with public speaking because that was the only skill I have. I teach it for a while. And then later on, when I was working with my audience, they keep asking me the same question. Eric, I don't get it. You're so young. How do you manage to even be a speaker? And then I realized that it's not because I'm good, but it's because I'm likable. Because a lot of clients that eventually bought me because of me. They wanted to support me. It's not because I'm good. There's so many good people out there. That was when I evolved into my second topic on charisma, where I realized that it's the people skills that actually help me be successful. And I thought that for a while. And then one day in Taiwan, a big CEO of an insurance company came to me and said, Eric, here's the problem with charisma. He said that you can teach all my guys charisma, but they're not even able to attract customers to them. There's no way their charisma can show up. And he said that I don't care whether they are new agents or old agents, both of them have a lead generation problem. They do not know how to get customers. Boom, I evolved. So I realized that no, I need to teach them how to get customers. That was when social media was there. So I experimented with social media and I was like, okay, I'm going to show them how to use social media to get customers. Boom, it worked. Then COVID strike. I was lucky. Can you see that? So your true north is just keep serving. Be passionate about helping your customers. Listen to them by taking them out for meals. Ask them questions. Don't talk too much. Social media is a great platform to listen as well. And once you notice a pattern, then you go out there and look for solutions. Because ultimately, the amount of money you make is the market's feedback of your value. The bigger problem you solve, the more money you make. It's as simple as that.
That's really good. That's a really good point, right? Because like you're right, you solve a big problem, and it all comes back to you from that perspective. But like, you can't just be very predatory about it. You have to show, you have to be genuine about it, right? You have to,
Yes.
honestly, like this is where, as you mentioned earlier, where passion comes in, right? You have to be really passionate about the problem you solve, because if you're out there and just trying to make a quick buck, people would know, and that would create a lot of distrust with you and the brand, right? So I
So
think
true.
a lot of it is like you actually, from Eric's point of view and Eric's heart, is that you actually care about people, and you build a relationship first, because like everything else in life, relationship is more important than a dollar. I firmly believe that, right? And I feel like you do a good job at doing that, because you keep on emphasizing that the customer is key, customer is important, and you built systems around that hypotheses, and that's awesome to hear about that transition. And I'm kind of curious, like, what is next for Eric, right?
Oh, well, so remember I told you, right? Social media was what was 3.0 for me, right? So evolved from public speaking, charisma, and to social media. Now it's evolved to, that's why I say digital transformation, because um, the problem with agents today is that not everybody can read and write. Sorry, they can read, but not everybody can write and produce good content. Not everybody is fluent. Not everybody is great at copywriting and speaking on podcasts. So now I'm actually building content libraries. I'm building AI systems to have, so that's where the full circle comes in. I'm going back into tech again, to work directly with the marketing, basically marketing departments of insurance companies, to create all this content. So the agents just got to share those content and leads come. And with AI, I won't want to review too much, but with AI, we can analyze exactly what kind of content gets us the most leads, which will help companies then generate better products. So I'm doing it for them right now, through agencies. So that's my next phase.
I love it. You're always on the next move, right?
Yeah, so that's why I say that the key is that it's really use your customer as a true north, right? You will never be lost.
Yeah, absolutely. And you keep doing that over and over, and
Yep.
I didn't expect this type of answer, and I love it. I love it, right? It just shows more character to who you are. So I guess one of the final two questions I want to ask is I love your backgrounds. I love your mic. I love your camera.
Thank you.
And for you guys that didn't know, I was actually on Eric's podcast like a year ago.
Yes,
right?
So good. How an introvert builds a community is still one of our best episodes.
And Eric really impressed me during that podcast. He has a great setting, great color. Eric dresses really well. So I'm kind of curious how you came up with that style, right? How did you develop that personality style where it's like when you look at stuff like that, not only through our podcasts or your podcast, but it's also reflected on your social media as well. How did you pick the colors that you pick and the lighting and the design?
It really took time. It took time because remember I told you I was living in a lot of people's shadow, right? Because I wasn't very proud of who I am. I didn't see the best in myself. But the cool thing is that as I started appreciating my style, I started seeing the best in myself, I started gaining confidence to step out and be my own kind of beautiful. Like I have to admit, I cry in movies. I can't help it. I can't help but to be really positive. So positive, I got COVID positive just 2 weeks ago. But I can't help it, Brian. Like sometimes when I go out with my friends, when they share me bad stuff, I can't help but to naturally tell them, hey, there's a positive way to look at it. To the extent I become the butt of the joke sometimes because my friends will do me, right? They're like, Eric is always so positive. And they're like, no, you can solve it. Then they'll try to imitate me. But as I grow up, I realize, you know what? That's just who I am. I'm not going to be embarrassed about being positive. I'm not going to be embarrassed about being optimistic. I'm not going to be embarrassed about, not knowing my direction. I'm not going to be embarrassed about loving colors. And I choose pink. And the reason why I chose pink is because a lot of guys are very terrified of using pink, right? Because they think that pink is a feminine color. And I want to show people that, hey, you know what? Part of branding, it's about doing things different. Like you want to be different. You want to just embrace that part of you that you fear that people would be afraid of. Like I'm actually known as the guy who wear pink a lot, not because
I like pink, by the way.
Yeah, there's a pink behind you as well. But you think about it, there was so much stereotype about, oh no, you shouldn't get pink because pink, then people think that you're girly, right? But I chose pink so that I can encourage people to say that, hey, I'm a guy, I love pink, and you should step out and just be authentic and just like what you like. That's also the reason why my spirit animal is a unicorn, right?
I like
it. Everywhere. I have a lot of gifts. Like people buy me a lot of gifts and they always buy me unicorns because I talk about unicorn all the time. That, unicorn is really just a horse with a horn. And just because of the magical horn, now this horse becomes super highly valuable. So we need to find that horn. We need to find our uniqueness. And that's why self-awareness is so important.
I love it. I love that analogy. I like that you like unicorns because I kind of like unicorns.
Yeah, I love not the unicorn that the entrepreneurs talk about, but I just think that unicorn, Pegasus, they all just represent a normal thing that's extraordinary because they focus on their uniqueness. And I think we should all focus on that.
Absolutely. I guess that's a great segue for the last question. What kind of advice would you have to a young kid out there that feels invisible? Right.
Oh, wow. Shucks.
And I feel like your story is really relatable to a lot of people because I feel like with the Asian experience, it's like most of the time, like, we're not really known as being outspoken, right? And how do we grow into our own self? And I want a new generation of very outspoken individuals who aren't afraid to be who they are and sort of in a way very unapologetic to be who they are, right? And I want to hear what advice you have for them.
Wow, this is a great question. Sorry, the long pause is because I'm thinking, because I'm not prepared for that question. Not that I'm prepared for any Brian's question, but this is so important. You see, Brian, the thing is this. The word invisible already implies a perspective. You can only be invisible if I'm looking at you, right? So if you guys want to not be invisible, then you need to stop living your life based on people's opinions of you. You got to stop living life based on validation and opinions. Because only when your basis of living and validating yourself is through other people's opinion, that's when you have the potential to be invisible. What's more important is to start seeing yourself, literally seeing yourself, literally appreciating yourself and understanding yourself so that you can appreciate yourself and work on your strengths. And when you start to see the best in yourself, guess what? The world responds. And then you automatically become visible. That's why I always say, people don't care about your story until you win, you succeed. And that's why you got to win, right? But in order to do that, it always starts with celebrating yourself. And to celebrate yourself, you need to first be aware of yourself and to work on yourself. And when that happens, automatically the world will start to take notice of you.
I like that. I like that answer. And I like one part of your answer that really stood out to me was when you work on your strength, right? And that's so important because we're so taught to work on your weaknesses all the time and really show like, oh, you got to work on your weakness. And you just really feel terrible about yourself because I think we have a lot more weaknesses than we have strengths, right? But when you focus on your strengths, it's what makes you unique. It's what makes you a unicorn. It's what
So
makes you
true.
special, right?
Yes.
And I really like that part of your answer a lot. So I appreciate that.
You're most welcome. Thank you for asking that question. I love it. Yeah.
Of course. So Eric, how can our listeners find out more about you and reach out to you online?
Well, I'm super active on Instagram. So if you guys hear this episode and you love it, so remember to share the podcast with all your friends. Tag Brian, tag myself. We'd love to reach out to you one day. And if you guys ever come to Asia or specifically Singapore, I would love to host you. So just let me know. Not just Brian, but anyone who listens to AHN.
Eric is quite honest about this. So take up his offer, hang out with him in
Yeah,
Singapore,
I
and
can't
that'll be
wait.
awesome. Just tag us too. I want to hear more about that story.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today, Eric.
Most welcome. Thanks for having me.
Of
Stay
course.
safe.
Thank you.